The first thin blade of morning sunlight sliced through the towering glass windows of Astratech Towers, scattering across the polished marble floors like a silent spotlight. And in that early hush of daytime, long before the city fully stirred awake, a single dad janitor named Evan Cole pushed his cleaning cart toward the private executive wing, an area practically forbidden for people like him. But today, for reasons he couldn't quite explain, he paused outside the heavy oak door of the woman everyone whispered about in awe, fear, or pity. Inside sat a 28-year-old billionaire, Ariana Locke, paralyzed from the waist down after the tragic accident that had stunned the nation. And as Evan stopped, a strange certainty filled him. The certainty that crossing that doorway would forever change both their lives. But nothing prepared him for the moment she lifted her eyes, cold as glass, and he spoke the words that made her burst into disbelief, and then into tears. "I'll help you walk." Before we dive deeper into this emotional, daytime cinematic story, if you believe in kindness, humanity, and second chances, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Bright Hearts. Your support helps more people discover uplifting stories like this one. Evan Cole never imagined his life would come to this, juggling 2 jobs, raising his 7-year-old daughter Harper alone, and carrying a grief so heavy it settled into his bones. His wife had passed 3 years earlier, taken swiftly by an illness their small-town clinic couldn't fight. Since then, Evan's days began before sunrise and ended long after Harper drifted to sleep in their tiny apartment. The janitorial job at Astratech wasn't glamorous, but it was steady, and steady meant a roof overhead, warm meals, and a sliver of hope for Harper's future. Every day, he passed Ariana's office. It wasn't curiosity drawing him. It was the sadness that seemed to radiate from behind those closed doors. Ariana Locke had once been unstoppable, a visionary who walked stages with electric confidence, commanding rooms with her brilliance. But the car crash had destroyed her spine, her independence, and her will to keep fighting. The world only saw her wealth. Evan sensed her loneliness. The day everything changed began quietly. Evan was mopping the marble floor while Harper, slightly feverish, sat on a little chair nearby, coloring quietly. She rarely caused trouble, and Evan trusted her gentle nature. As fate would have it, Ariana opened her office door just then, rolling out in her sleek wheelchair. Harper looked up at her with a bright, innocent smile untouched by pity. Ariana froze. No one smiled at her anymore, not truly. People offered polite nods, forced courtesies, or avoided her altogether. But this child smiled as though she were simply human. "What's your name?" Ariana asked, her voice soft, fragile around the edges. "Harper," she replied, holding out her drawing. "Do you like flowers?" Ariana didn't speak. Her eyes misted, her throat tightened, and she slowly rolled back into her office without a word. Something in her expression had shifted, something Evan had never seen before. Later, when he knocked on her door to thank her for speaking kindly to his daughter, he stepped into a room so hollow it felt like grief lived in its corners. Ariana looked like a ghost of the powerhouse she used to be. Without thinking, without planning, words burst from him. "If you're willing, I think I can help you walk again." She stared, stunned, then let out a short, jagged laugh, one filled with disbelief, bitterness, and years of crushed hope. "You're a janitor," she said quietly. "Do you know how many world-class specialists couldn't help me? What makes you think you can?" Evan didn't back down. "Because I won't treat you like a patient," he said gently. "I'll treat you like someone worth fighting for." That single sentence shattered something inside her. Over the next days, Ariana found herself watching Evan from her office windows. She noticed the gentleness in the way he guided Harper, the dignity in how he carried himself, even in silence. He wasn't loud. He wasn't seeking praise. He was just steady, kind, real. Finally, one quiet afternoon as daylight warmed her office, she called him in. Her voice trembled slightly. "If you're serious," she whispered, "show me." They began slowly. Evan wasn't a doctor, but he'd spent months learning physical therapy techniques while caring for his late wife. He had no machines, no technology, only determination and compassion. Under his guidance, Ariana's rigid legs were stretched, massaged, and gently coaxed to awaken. He talked to her, telling her stories of resilience, of Harper's innocence, of grief and how it can either harden or soften a person. For the first time since her accident, she felt seen, not as a billionaire, not as a broken case, but as a human being. Day after day, progress came in invisible threads. A twitch here, a spark of feeling there, a flicker of hope. She was terrified to believe in. One bright afternoon, as golden sunlight warmed the therapy room, Evan asked her to try lifting her leg. He held the support frame, steady and quiet. Ariana shut her eyes. She focused on the breath trembling in her chest. And then, something happened. A faint movement. Barely there, but real. Evan's voice broke with emotion. Ariana, you moved. That was you. She gasped, covering her mouth as tears spilled freely. The shock of hope, the fear of believing again, the overwhelming relief. It all crashed into her at once. I didn't imagine that, she whispered. You didn't, he said. You did it. For the first time in 2 years, she allowed hope to enter her heart. Days turned into weeks. Evan kept showing up. Harper kept bringing light into Ariana's office with her drawings and giggles. Ariana slowly began reclaiming pieces of herself she thought were buried forever. Her voice regained its warmth. Her confidence returned in fragile but growing steps. Even her employees noticed her smile again. And then came the day Evan let go of her waist support bar and stepped back, holding his breath. Ariana, try to stand. Her legs trembled. Her hands clutched the parallel bars. Sweat gathered on her brow. Every muscle screamed. But slowly, achingly, beautifully, she rose on her own. For the first time since the accident, she burst into tears, collapsing into Evan's arms as he steadied her. You kept your promise, she whispered through sobs. You kept fighting. He whispered back. If this story touched your heart so far, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Bright Hearts. Your support helps keep these emotional stories alive. As Ariana's strength grew, so did her bond with Evan and Harper. The woman who once lived behind closed walls now stepped, shakily but proudly, toward life again. And she knew, deep inside, that fate had brought her the one person who believed in her before she believed in herself. Special request. Comment hope wins if this story made you feel something. Ariana Locke had lost everything once, but through the unlikeliest of people, a humble janitor with a gentle soul, she learned to stand again, not just on her feet, but in her heart. And sometimes, that is the most powerful miracle of all.